They say that consistency is key. They all say it, lots of people, you know, smarter people than me. Whether that's in your personal life, in your private life, or in your professional life, consistency gets you to where you're going to be, right? If you just keep showing up, doing the same thing, eventually you'll find the success that you're looking for. What if you can't be consistent? What if you've got a debilitating disease that prevents you from showing up every day and doing things the way you'd normally do them? Just like walking, for example. What if for you, consistency is just about being able to put one foot in front of the other and keep moving forwards? What if you can't really conform to the modern values of being consistent, and the best that you can do is just not fall into a dark pit of despair when you can't consistently do the things that you want to do? That's really the question that I've been wrestling with for the last few years. And you know what, these days I've come to realize, because I've grown older and wiser, that the only thing you can do is just ride it out. So that's why I'm out here in the garden to make this video. I mean, I won't be staying out here, it's far too hot, but it's a lot more beautiful than it is inside in my studio. I shouldn't have twisted then, that motion pulled the skin and it hurt. But what do you do if you can't be consistent? And if you're wondering why I'm walking like that and look like John Wayne, it's because I've got an Aldi size easy peeler wedged in down there between me groin and my pubic area, so to speak. It's not very pleasant. It's okay when you get your weight on it and it's all smushed down. You can't feel it as badly. And I know what you're thinking about the Crocs, but I'm in my back garden, all right? So keep those intrusive thoughts to yourself. So I've come into my garden to ride it out. Although I'm only out here to make this video because it's extremely hot today, probably the hottest day of the year. And in just making these 2 minutes of videos already, I am dripping with sweat, which is something else you have to contest with when you have HS and you have a flare-up like I do now. Heat regulation goes out of the window. The immune system is busy fighting an infection that doesn't exist. And so the rest of your body is just left to rot. Needless to say, this is a result of me burning the candle at both ends since the beginning of June with my 100-day mission. It's safe to say I worked extremely hard and now I'm suffering the consequences. When I say I work really hard, I mean I worked a 40, maybe a 50-hour week, which is comparable to what most people have to do every week. But just doing that, probably in addition to a 4.5-hour, 5-hour round trip to Newcastle to see my specialist, has probably compounded into me having these flare-ups. So the only thing I can do, like I said, is to ride it out, not beat myself up too much, try to keep my mind focused on other things other than how much I hate HS, how much pain I'm in, and how much I despise the situation of my life, because just a week ago I was relatively euphoric compared to how I feel today. Oh, I did it. I brought my duck, so to speak, out on the streets, raising awareness for HS. So I know that this moment is temporary, it may be fleeting, or this may be my situation now for the next few weeks or months. We don't know. Oh, I've come in now under lean-to, where we keep all the kids' bits and pieces in the shade, because it's absolutely mafting out there. Look at the state of me. Can you see this before I wipe away the sweat? Look how I'm sweating. Unsurprisingly, given I've been suffering this way for the last 4 or 5 days, I've not been consistent. I haven't been consistently sticking to my plan to go out and visit lots of villages and spread awareness. And I haven't consistently stuck to making YouTube videos and putting them up every Tuesday. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry to you. I made a promise. I said I'd give you a video every Tuesday, and I haven't. Mitigating circumstances might explain why. Yesterday, when I should have been really busy editing this video and putting it all together, I was busy pulling myself out of that dark hole that I mentioned, which resulted in like an 8-hour laying down battlefield session slaughtering AI robots to just make myself feel better and forget about the misery. But I'm trying to look forward to the point where I will be able to continue, so let's draw a line through that for today. I'm not going to sit here being miserable when it is such glorious English summer. But I want to just really quickly talk about my trip to Newcastle last week and a telephone call / video call interview that I had with a HS researcher also last week. The thing that stuck in my mind from both of them is that they both asked me the question, there was a question during the process that was, how has your HS been today? Or how has your HS been this last week? Or describe a day with HS. And I raised the point to both of them that this isn't the way that you can look at HS. I didn't know this until recently, but as I've now had HS for coming up 2 decades, I'm able to look out, zoom out and see the whole thing together. Now, stage 1 in itself is kind of separate because that's just the formation of the disease, and for each person it's different at a different rate and somewhat manageable. But once we get to stage 2 and stage 3, which has been my life now for the best part of 12 years, answering that simple question, how has your HS been today or this week, is impossible, because you can't view it on a daily or weekly basis. In fact, even looking at it monthly is not the right way to approach it. You have to zoom right out and look at it yearly, and then you can look at it over a decade. And that's why I'm able to be more calm now, because the cycle of HS is unpredictable, but in my case, I think somewhat predictable. Usually after serious surgery, which is what I had 2 years ago, I end up in a worse situation a few years later. The body fights back harder. Usually I get a couple of year period, which is literally what I've just had, where things haven't been too bad. And you might be scratching your head thinking, well, what the hell? Because I've been following you on different social media for the last couple of years and your life looks pretty rotten. Yes, but not in comparison to what it used to be like. It used to be much worse. So I'm grateful that things have improved, likely because of my lifestyle changes and the adalimumab, Humira, that I'm taking. But who knows, it's all just anecdotal, as I said, and I'm hastened to give a positive answer to a healthcare professional to say, well, actually, things are looking really positive now, because I've tripped up and said that before and fallen flat on my face and ended up in a much worse situation a year or 2 or 3 later. That then brings us back to this idea that consistency is key. And I would say, if I look back over the last 2 decades of my life, that probably 50 or 60% of it was spent in moderate pain. Maybe 20 to 25%, but let's say 20, and I still think that's generous, percent of that time was spent not in pain, or less than a 2 or 3 on a pain scale out of 10. And so that means that 20 to 30% of my life, of my adult life really, I've been in a serious situation of debilitating pain, helplessness, and unsupported. So you ask yourself the question, how is a person able to be consistent when that's their life over a 20-year period? This is how I would like HS and chronic illness to be reframed within the National Health Service and the DWP. I've recently spoken to a lot of different people with chronic illness, different forms of chronic illness, and it seems that the pattern repeats itself, and there's a real problem with the systems that are there to support us in the way that they don't. Because, speaking of the DWP, they ask their questions with the frame of, how is your disease today? Which is nonsensical when you live with an unpredictable disease which can change with the wind. So there's no update, there's just maybe some light at the end of the tunnel, because someone who's been with this now for 20 years, I know that this suffering and this misery isn't going to last. And if there's anybody younger than me watching this who are in a worse situation, the kind of situation I used to be in, it's difficult to listen to these words and understand them truly, but your situation will get better. I'm very certain of it. There are periods, I've had periods, good periods, where I've been able to do amazing things. And so when you get those periods, I think people with HS and chronic illness already know this, but when you get those moments, embrace them, grab them with 2 hands and go fucking nuts. You wouldn't believe the life I've lived. I've taken a lot of opportunities presented to me. You can read about all of them in my book, Living No, a 21st Century Boydult. The website is called Living Life with HS. I've been Gareth, your host. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully next week I will bring you some kind of an update with my 100-day mission. For today, it was just a little bit of wisdom corner. Be well. See you soon.